We need to finish the notes from the last lesson. So we're supposed to do number 4. So we're going to look at that one together, make sure you did it correctly. Axis of symmetry. Whenever you do your A, your B, and your C, you list those out. So that would be -1, 0, and 3. Axis of symmetry is found by doing the formula -b over 2a. When there is no b value, because it's 0, it'd be -0 over 2 times a -1, which gives us 0. So x equals 0 is our axis of symmetry. So draw your line down the middle. Let's wait on the vertex and let's go ahead and find our y-intercept. Our y-intercept comes from the c value. So the y-intercept is 0, 3. So we put that in, 1, 2, 3. It's on the axis of symmetry. If your vertex is on the axis of symmetry, well, it should be. The vertex is always on the axis of symmetry. This one, the y-intercept, is on the axis of symmetry, so that makes it the vertex. We need to get a couple of more points. So we are going to put it in the calculator. So it is -x squared plus 3. To get a couple of more points, we find our vertex on our table, and then we look at the next two numbers. So 0, 3. So our next two numbers is 1, 2. So go over 1, up 2. And then 2, -1. We can actually get one more on this graph because it's 3, -6. So over 3, down to -6. And we know with quadratics, you always can reflect the points across the axis of symmetry. So we have plenty of points to make the U shape. So I always start with those bottom ones or top ones, those 3 that are clustered together that have the vertex. And then extend your line. It's not a line, it's a curve. Domain is all real numbers because it goes to the left and right to infinity. Our range is found by looking at what the highest or lowest point is. The highest point is 3. It's 3 and below. So it's going to be less than or equal to 3.
My sister's still bringing me back my review sheet.
And then our max or min, our highest point, so you're always looking at the height, is 3. And so it's a max equals 3. Okay, so whenever you look for your root solutions x-intercepts, you got to find out where it crosses the x-axis. These are not perfect. It's going to be a decimal. So we need to find that on the calculator. So we're going to use a calculator on this one. So the steps are found on the front. So everybody look at the steps. It says put the function into y equals, then hit graph. So let's go ahead and do that. If you don't already have it into y equals, do that right now. Then go to the graph. We can find what those values are. So the second step says second trace. So second trace. And we want to find where it crosses the x-axis. The 0 is going to be your x-intercept. Okay? So go to number 2 for 0. Everybody should be doing this in the calculator. So we push enter for 0. And this one has 2 different x-intercepts. So we're going to have to do this 2 times. Focus on one at a time. So we're going to look at this one first. So it says left bound. Left bound means to the left of our point that we're looking for. So let's arrow over. Here's the point that we want. Now go to the left of it. To the left would actually be down. So see how I pushed this button to go to the left. So that is the left side. Push enter. And the calculator is creating boundaries for us. So then we want to go to the right bound. We're going to arrow over till we get to the right side. Right side on this one is actually above. Push enter. Guess. Push enter. So look at the value it gave us. So we're going to say x equals negative 1.73. Let's just go 2 decimal places. We need to find the other one as well because there are 2. It asks us how many root solutions, x-intercepts are there? There are 2. Write the word 2 out there. 2 of them. We already found one of them. So we're going to find the other one. And we're going to follow the same steps, but this time we're going to focus on the other point, the positive one over here. So let's go second, trace again. Sit up. Go to 0 again. And we want to go over to the other side. So this is the point that we want. But we want to go to the left of it. So the left is actually above. So I'm going to go to the left of that point. So go to the point that you want and then go to the left of it. Push enter. Then go back to the point you want and go to the right of it. And it creates boundaries with those dotted lines. Yes, enter. $1.73. So we have positive 1.73 and negative 1.73. We have both of them. All right, so we are done with these notes. So go ahead and glue them in. We are going to take notes on the next page in your journal. So go ahead and title these notes Solutions to Quadratic Equations. So we're solving quadratic equations. We can solve quadratic equations by finding the so the first thing is x-intercept. It's also called roots. zeros, and solutions. All of these things are the exact same thing. The thing is, state of Texas and in math, they like to use these four words interchangeably. They'll say, we want to find the x-intercept, then sometimes they'll say, what is the root? Or they might say, what's the solution? Or what is the zero? All of these things mean the exact same thing. You're looking for where it crosses the x-axis. So there are actually 3 different scenarios with quadratic equations when we graph them. So I want you to draw 3 different x, y graphs. Just small. They don't have to be very big at all. Label your x and y axis. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just 3 little ones. You can do another one down here if you're out of room. That's fine. We're actually going to take 2 pages to do these notes. We're not going to fill up both of them, though. Okay, so this first graph, we are going to look at when there's 2 solutions. So right down below this first graph, 2 solutions. When there are 2 solutions, you are going to have a parabola that crosses through the x-axis twice. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to draw it like that. It's just a U shape on your graph. So these are the 2 x-intercepts. That's when you have 2 solutions. Okay, 1 solution is the next one. That is whenever it only touches at one time. So that's what 1 solution looks like. And then the last one is no solution. No solution is when it never touches the x-axis at all. It doesn't touch it. It's right above it or it'll be right below the x-axis, but it never passes through. That's what a no solution looks like. So we have 2 solutions, 1 solution, and no solution. All right, so let's talk about how to actually solve some equations. So let's go through the steps. the steps for solving quadratics. We're going to use the graph. So the first thing we need to do is set the equation equal to 0. Step 2, after you set it equal to 0, you're going to replace the 0 with y. So that way you have an equation, y equals. So instead of 0 equals something, it's going to say y equals.
But y equals 0.
Nope, y equals whatever the function is. You'll see it on our first example. Okay, step 3 is going to be graph in the calculator. Step 4 is going to be find the x-intercepts. There may be 1, there may be 2, there may be 0. You've got to look at the graph and see. So you find the x-intercepts by seeing where it crosses the x-axis. You can also use the button second trace and 0, number 2, which is 0. Or look at the table. And on the table, it's going to be where x is a number, but y is 0. That is a 0. When it says, what is the 0? It's saying there's a number for x, but the 0 is for y. All right, let's go to the first one. 0 equals negative x squared minus 6x minus 9. So the reason this is a quadratic equation is because it's written in that ax squared plus bx plus c. That's what a quadratic is. So see how it has an x squared, it has an x, and it has a number? So we can find the solution by following those steps. So set equation equal to 0. It's already done for us. Replace the 0 with y. So y equals negative x squared minus 6x minus 9. Step 3, graph in the calculator. So go to y equals and put it in. Show it to the people at your table to make sure that you put it in. Everyone needs to have it put in. Okay, hit the graph. Make sure y'all's graphs look the same. Check each other. It should be upside down because the x squared is a negative. Another thing that we know is our y-intercept is at negative 9. So it's upside down, and it goes through the y-axis at negative 9. How many solutions do we have on this one? Yep. What is it? Where does it cross?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. So we just write x equals negative 3. It's where it crossed the x-axis. It was at -3. You can double check by looking at your table and looking at when x is -3, y should equal 0, and it does. All right, let's go to the second example. (3x² plus 6x minus 4 equals 20. Step 1 says set the equation equal to 0. How do I get this equal to 0?
You have to subtract the 20.
Yep, minus the 20. And you put it underneath the like term. -20 is like -4 because they're just constants.
-24.
So we have 3x² plus 6x minus 24 equals 0. Step 2, replace the 0 with y. So I'm just going to put y up front. I switched them around just so it says y equals 3x² plus 6x minus 24. What's our y-intercept going to be? -24. Yep, it's that c value. So we know we're not going to be able to see it because our graph, unless we zoom out, but we don't need to see that. All we need to see is where it crosses the x-axis. So 3x² plus 6x minus 24. Okay? All right, so hit second. No, just hit graph. How many times does it cross? Twice? Where are those 2 times?
-4
-4
and 2.
and 2. Those are our solutions. X equals -4 and x equals 2. Okay, I'm going to go to the next page just because I want to have a little bit more room. I'm not going to use this page. I'm going to put a foldable on here on Monday. So I'm going to use this page because mine bled through. I don't know about y'all, but I like a lot of colors, and so it bleeds through. You're welcome to write it on the back if yours doesn't bleed through like mine did. All right, so let's do number 3. Parentheses x minus 4 squared equals 9. Parentheses x minus 4, close parentheses, and then squared equals 9.
Distribute.
Nope, we are not going to do anything to the left side. All we're going to do is move that 9 to the other side.
Oh.
Because this is actually something we haven't learned just yet. We're going to learn it next week. So we are going to keep things simple and just move this 9 over. But the thing is, we're not going to combine these either. So remember how I said keep it simple? Keep it simple. It's just going to be x minus 4 parentheses squared minus 9 equals 0. Keep them all separated. And then write it as y equals. Make sure you use minus and not negative on these. It changes it if you do that. Okay, how many times does it cross the x-axis? 2. Okay, so let's look at what those 2 spots are. 1 and 7. We have 2 more. We have number 4 and 5. F of x equals x squared minus 64. F of x is the same thing as saying y equals. So we don't need to do anything there. Just put it in. It's already in the right format. Okay. So you can count them. You could also go to the table and see where is y equal to 0. Oh. If you look at your table, look at my table. -8, 0. So -8 is one of them. And +8, it's symmetrical. Okay, the last one. 2x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 5. So I need to move the 5 to the other side. Subtract it, put it underneath the like term, which is that -4. So once we solve it for 0, we can just write it as y equals . Put it into y equals . Hit graph. How many times does it cross?
Twice.
Twice. So let's see, hit trace. If you hit trace, you can follow it along. And where do you think it crosses on the negative side?
-1.5.
-1.5?
Yeah.
Yeah. And whenever I hit trace, look at whenever I did that, I get -1.515152. And then the y is 0.136, which would round to 0. So -1.5. We can check that by using the second trace. Second trace. Go to 0, number 2. Go to where your x-intercept is, then go above it or to the left of it, enter. Then go to the right of it, enter. Guess, enter. And it is. So we did a good estimate. And then the other one, what's the other one?
3.
Yep, x equals 3. Okay. So that is all the notes for today. Your assignment is just to finish the rest of this quadratic practice. If you're already done with it, you can go ahead and turn it in.